If you from someone and got reincarnated as a fly, do you think you'll be able to avenge yourself? Let's find out. Eega has 3 main characters. First is this bad boy, Sudeep. He's able to defy the laws of physics and everything we know about guns by using only 2 bullets to shoot dozens of fruits out of the sky. Pretty cool, right?
Wrong!
Next, we have Bindu. She likes making micro art, then suddenly her power goes out. She looks out the window to see who else lost power, then we meet this creeper.
Oh man.
His name is Nani, and he's infatuated with this baddie. They catch each other's gaze, then he gets an idea. He goes downstairs and just trashes the apartment by dumping stuff on the floor. Then he basically turns into Hacksmith Industries and builds the bat signal, but he's not using it to call Batman. No. He's going to blind Bindu so she'll date him regardless of what he looks like. He still gets rejected. Chat, love is dead. We find out Nani has been in love with Bindu for 2 years and she hasn't shown any attention to him in the slightest. He gaslights himself by saying she cares about me and thinks about me all the time. And we see her smile a bit, so maybe he's not as crazy as we thought. If you have a love interest, ask them out. What's the worst that can happen? Hey, I kinda like you. Wanna go out on a date?
Ugh.
We cut back to Sudeep and he's hosting a party. He meets someone's wife and she falls for him instantly, and his buddy says, what woman won't fall for you? Then we find out there's just one, his wife. He married her because of her money and land, then when he wanted some of it, she said over her dead body. So, she's not here anymore. She could be hiding behind a couch, but that's... Bindu is at her job and they're in a bunch of debt. Nani comes by to donate some money, then finds out that Sudeep's company is going to make a bigger donation. She goes to Sudeep's office and he's still beating himself off about how powerful and cool he is, but is suddenly thrown off his game when he lays eyes on Bindu for the first time. He stops everything to bring her into the office like the simp he is. He doesn't listen to a word she says and violates Bindu with his eyes. He writes a check for $28,000 like it's nothing and says he wants to observe her.
Yeah.
They go out for lunch and she gets a text from Nani, who just happens to be there too. Like I said earlier,
Creeper. Oh man.
she wants to change seats and ends up sitting closer to Nani. During lunch, she pulls an Uno reverse card and doesn't listen to a single thing he says and just stares at Nani. Sudeep offers a relationship and she's giving him the cold shoulder. He looks over to see who she could be looking at and it's like God watching someone jaywalk. Later, they leave and he's on his bike following her car. Chat, don't do this. This is not Riz. This is stalking. He gets stopped by someone and she makes Sudeep stop the car. She gets out and notices he's getting blocked. He leaves his car in the middle of the street and just bodies this poor guy on the phone. He follows them and he has yet to blink. His eyes are burning red as they're piercing through Mario and Princess Peach. He has this sinister smile that obviously means he's up to no good. We cut to nighttime and she's back at work. She gets ready to leave but has no gas left. She texts Nani a blank message and he shows up out of nowhere to rescue her. She plays hard to get by saying she never sent anything and that it was a mistake, but they still end up walking home together. He breaks out into a musical number and she gets a little cough, so Nani, being the absolute freakazoid he is, immediately breaks into a building, ransacks their fridge, and comes running back with something to drink. She doesn't want it, then he does a magic trick turning it into water. She returns home completely smitten and makes a necklace for Nani. He walks across the street to retrieve his hard-earned reward, but gets kidnapped. He meets Sudeep for the first time and he boasts about every woman wanting him, but because of you, Bindu doesn't even look at me. He tells Sudeep to stay away from her or else he'll kill him, and that ignites his fire. Nani gets tossed to the ground and gets a foot to the neck. Bindu texts him asking where he is, and Sudeep gets even angrier. She texts him, I love you, and that's the last thing Nani hears before having his life slip away. Nani's soul leaves his body and goes into the closest living thing, fly eggs. The next morning, Bindu rides into town and sees Nani, but how'd she get her bike back? That's not important. What is important is the miracle of childbirth. Or fly birth. Nani is back and ready to avenge his death. He tries to fly, but his wing is stuck. He fiddles around, then suddenly the Great Flood is here to wipe him out. He runs for his life and is somehow outrunning the stream of water. He makes a great leap of faith and unsticks his wing from his body just in time to fly to safety. He looks up and gets hit from the blast wave of a sneaker hitting the ground. Then he almost gets hit from a cigarette falling, but next comes a sneaker to finish the job. In just a short life, too minutes. That fly. Wait, look over there. The fly was in the crevices of the shoe. Wait, if the fly never died, then who was in the casket? The Queen of England. Nani gets stuck in a bubble, then lands on a tennis ball. And if you've seen the Bee movie, you know what to expect. A bat hits the tennis ball and he goes soaring through the stratosphere onto an apple. A bird comes by and tries to take a bite out of him, and damn, this fly can't catch a break. 2 minutes into being born and he's already in the trenches of war. The bird chases after him and he escapes into a house. He flies over to some water and gets dunked in. They start making iced tea and you'll never guess who's behind the spoon. Sudeep! Nani finally realizes who he was, then does some sick parkour to free himself. He starts plotting, then takes off like a rocket ship and torpedoes into his cheek, afflicting -15 damage. He tries again and still ends up doing more damage to himself. He tries one more time and gets backhanded. He remembers Bindu and flies all the way to her house to see her. He follows her around for a bit, then gets crushed by some books. Man, this fly lives through anything. Later at the office, Sudeep shows up and tells her that she needs to forget everything about Nani. This infuriates the little guy, so he flies around Sudeep's ear to annoy him. He keeps doing it until he finally flies into his ear, and Sudeep starts flipping out. He's going in both ears, his nose, anywhere that has a hole. Anywhere. The employees show up and surround Sudeep, canceling whatever plans he had for Bindu. She runs to Sudeep and tells him that she's going to try and forget Nani. Later, Sudeep is enclosed in a sauna box, and here he is, always plotting something. He slowly crawls towards him, then jumps to his nose. Sudeep goes sicko mode, trying to shake him off, but nothing's stopping him. He slowly starts crawling towards his ear, then enters. Ugh! Holy schmoly! I felt it! Ah! Did you guys feel it? Oh! He zoinks enough to unwedge the box on wheels, and he starts rolling towards a spike. Something knocks him off balance, and he's rotating towards it, and somehow puts his head in between two large spikes. What are these even for? Holding towels? Don't make them spear-shaped. He gets rescued, and I can't show this, but he goes out into his office naked, trying to swat the fly with his towel. The people in the office speed out of there as fast as they can, and this is unedited. This is such a goofy movie. We cut to later, and Bindu and her company is with Sudeep. He says he spoke to some people and needs someone to go to Delhi tomorrow with him. Everyone offers up Bindu, and she agrees. Nani cannot believe what he is seeing. Later that night, Sudeep is trying to sleep, and Nani whispers sweet nothings into his ear. He gets so fed up, it looks like he's off his schizophrenia medication. He covers his head, but do you think that's going to stop Nani? Nope. He starts using the comforter as a lightsaber, and that obviously doesn't work. He tries to sleep on the couch, but it is impossible for him to get rest anywhere. Time flies by. Get it? I'll see my way out. He's still not getting any sleep. Then Sudeep gets an idea. He mummifies himself to finally catch some Z's. He wakes up to a call from Bindu, and she's at the airport. The plane leaves in 30 minutes. He says he'll be there in 10 and has got the need for speed. Nani just so happens to be in the car and gets an idea. He flies up to the traffic signaler and flies right in front of him, making him wave the wrong areas of traffic to follow through. This is some SpongeBob level of traffic controlling, as everyone almost gets into a crash. Sudeep tries to get out of his window, but he's blocked by an SUV. So, he travels through his trunk and continues on foot. How does this guy keep leaving his car in the middle of the street? He ends up getting a rental car and is still speed racing his way to the airport. The flight gets delayed by a half hour, then he finally sees Nani on the steering wheel. He puffs some smoke onto him and falls out the window. No! This is the end. He tried his best, and he didn't succeed. We gotta give him credit, though. He's just a fly. What could he possibly do in this situation? He hops on a cop car, and it catches up to Sudeep. He makes another large marge of a jump and falls through the car's innards to pop out through the AC. Nani ends up on the steering wheel again and flies into his eyeball. Immediately, the car swerves over and catches some sick airtime. It soars over a Jeep and stampedes right into a truck. Somehow, after that squish, he's still alive. Nani flies. I have to stop saying fly. Count how many times I've said it so far. Nani travels through the air over to the windshield covered in dirt and writes, "I will kill you." Sudeep makes it out alive and has a can of Raid at his disposal. He asks his Goonies if animals take revenge, and they think he's full of baloney. Bindu shows up and he puts his hand on hers, which infuriates Nani. He dashes towards him, and Bindu takes out the Glock, spraying Nani not just once, but a second time with no remorse. He falls out the window and is paralyzed on a leaf. Bindu is a cold-hearted, semi semi-killer-ish. Nani's still alive because when she leaves, she trips on a garden hose which pours water on Nani, saving him from the sleep paralysis demon. Later, Sudeep asks someone else if flies take revenge and is astronomically angry that they don't believe his story either. They tell him to seek mental help, so he ends up in a forest talking to the Stonekeeper from Endgame. He says, when you've lost everything, we'll meet again. Sudeep thinks he's Delulu and dips. We cut to Nani and he's zooming through the skies all the way back to Bindu's house. Bindu is crying and he gets the idea to use her tears to write out a message. It says, I'm Nani, reborn. Inspirational. She's in complete disbelief and asks him how he died. She learns that Sudeep is one scraggly son of a Talktua enjoyer. She puts together that Sudeep likes her and feels so gross. She asks him, what shall we do? And he slits his throat with paint. Yo, Bindu is insane. She makes him glasses so he's invincible against Raid. Shadow Legends. Just kidding, please sponsor me. Over time, he continues to torment Sudeep, and we get this sick-ass training montage of him working out and getting harder, better, faster, stronger. Sudeep is on a high-rise building, and Nani almost makes him play Human Fall Flat, but he catches himself just in time. Then, in the middle of the night, he lifts a cigarette and sets his bed on fire, and making his barber almost cut his throat. Later, Sudeep drinks some flaming alcohol, and Nani flies into his eye to make him freak out and set his beard on fire. The pain just never ends. All while this is happening, Bindu is manufacturing homemade gunpowder so Nani can fill up his cannon, but Sudeep sees him and traps him in the cannon. He thinks he's got the upper hand, then gets bamboozled.
Baba Booey.
Later, Barry and Nani and Bindu are out getting coffee and everyone thinks she's crazy, just like in the B movie. But you've seen that already. Let's get back to Eega. He grabs a match and is ready to set the cannon on fire, but one of his goons are in the way. He returns to Bindu and say, this ain't it, chief. We gotta try something new. While he's gone, Sudeep time-lapse builds a brand new door that has thermal cams to see flies through people and beats the crap out of this poor guy while trying to kill Nani. They go back to the drawing board and Bindu heads over to help the little guy in. Once in, Sudeep immediately starts zoinking, then gets pegged right in the ear. Now, since Nani is buffed, he's scratching his skin like no tomorrow and is tearing through the barriers. Sudeep tries to act like a cool cucumber, but you can't spell cucumber without cum, and kicks her out because of the amount of pain he's in, and Nani escapes as well. Now, I may be wrong here, but if he's showering in steroids, then that's absolutely bonkers. Some drunk breaks into Bindu's apartment, kind of like how Kanye checks in on Kim every once in a while, and Bindu confesses her love to the fly. This bozo thinks that she's talking to him. His hamster wheel is spinning, but the hamster's dead. The next day, Sudeep shows up to a meeting and is on so many perks. The fly is on everybody's head, and hey, I like your cut, G. He's continuously beating everybody's skins off and will not stop unless that fly is dead. He grabs a pot and traumatizes this poor man. One of the businessmen called the tax people to raid his business. Before they can do that though, he rushes to get into the safe and Nani is on the keyboard making him mess up his keystrokes until he's locked out of the safe. He grabs a blowtorch and has he not learned his lesson with the fly around? This is like live action Tom and Jerry. He gets discombobulated while dealing with the fly and now the blowtorch is burning all of his precious moolah. Not knowing what to do, he goes back to the Stonekeeper and is willing to trade a life for the stone. Oh wait, wrong movie again. They tell him Nani's the fly and he needs to conduct a ritual immediately. They do some witchcraft and shoot some fairy dust to possess a couple birds to take out Nani. They chase him around the room and through some pants. Nani, being the trickster he is, traps one of the birds in a phone cord while the other one makes a mess of the whole room. Glasses get shattered, wine gets spilled, all hell is breaking loose. One bird kamikazes into the ground right when the other bird breaks free. He flies into a telescope and it's just small enough to escape, making the bird stuck. The kamikaze pilot breaks free and darts toward Nani, and right when he's in their mouth, they crash into the electrical outlet. Smoke fills the room and the room enters quarantine mode, leaving them with no way out. He tries to hit the door and throw bottles at the window, but nothing works. He yells for the last time before looking at Nani and collapses to the ground. Yeah! He got his revenge! Sudeep is dead. Nani's days of being locked in is finally over, until his partner in crime breaks down the door and frees him. He gets mad at Sudeep for being crazy about a fly, then feels a slight breeze by the window. He immediately starts scanning through some footage and finds out that Bindu is working with the fly. Since all of his money is gone, he needs some funds quick. So what do you do when you need money? You kill your partner in crime and collect the life insurance. The next day, Sudeep shows up outside Bindu's house and takes her for a drive. He tells her that he pretty much knows the bee's knees and takes her to his fly-proof camp. He shows her the footage saying how the fuck can a fly make goggles for itself? Only a micro artist is capable of doing that. She starts freaking out, then takes a box cutter to stab Sudeep in the neck, but her turns are tabled and now the knife is against her. He calls out for Nani and he shows up under his feet. He takes off his shoe so he can feel Nani's life slip away from him again, but right before he steps on him, Nani picks up a sewing needle and it goes right through his foot. Ah! I've seen this before. Sudeep takes a gun and tries to shoot the fly, but Nani ends up being Neo and dodges the bullets. The shots cut the power to his house, so he takes his 2000 Spy Kids glasses to see in the dark to track down the fly. He's shooting over and over, grabbing gun after gun, but nothing's hitting him. He shoots the cannon, knocking it over, and breaks open a part of the wall that reveals canisters, which can only lead to one thing: big booms on the boom meter. Sudeep ends up running through all of his ammo, then Nani lifts up a marble bullet thing, I forgot what it's called, and swirls around fast enough for it to have the power of a bullet. He chucks it in his direction, leading to a final destination level effect, trailing all the way up to a chandelier falling on him. He gets cuts all over his face and he's still kicking. His men clear out the entire room to look for Nani, then out of nowhere, Nani picks up a needle and tries to joust Sudeep. He takes aim and rages towards him until Sudeep picks up a magnet and traps Nani underneath the needle. Sudeep boasts that he finally won, then for some reason reveals Bindu, who's been hidden inside of a cocoon. He threatens to hurt her and Nani's trying his hardest to save her. Then Sudeep cuts off a wing. Sudeep takes the needle and puts it in Bindu's hand, making her stab the poor little guy's hand. Nani sees the homemade gunpowder and gets an idea, but before he can finish his thought, the needle pierces through him. All this work for nothing? Bindu pushes him off of her and checks on Nani. She pulls out the needle and he crawls towards her. Thank God he's still alive. Yo, he's perfectly fine. I'm telling you, that was steroids from earlier. He motions to her that there's going to be some big booms coming, and she says okay, which makes Sudeep freak out. Nani starts covering himself in gunpowder, and Sudeep starts having his little tantrums that he normally has. He grabs a match, and Nani squares it up, running towards it, not fearing death. He jumps through the fire and flames, setting himself on fire, and enters the dark, gaping cannon hole. His body ignites the cannon, and a ball goes right through Sudeep's chest, then crashes into the gas canisters. The match that he lit like 10 seconds ago sets the entire house ablaze. Nani's fire spirit gets the last laugh, as it's the last thing Sudeep sees before he's blasted to smithereens. Somehow, Bindu survives the explosion, and now she's sad that she lost the same lover twice in one lifetime. Time skip to the future, and this bozo tries to flirt with her, but oh! Nani is back, and he makes him crash his bike. Nani comes out of the fogs of war with a needle, ready to penetrate his eye, but thank God he gets away. I didn't want to see that. So, if I were a worm, would you still love me? Please, I'm desperate. I think Eega is the movie to answer that question. Eega is the John Wick version of the B movie, and it was pretty gas. It got a 7.7 on IMDb and a 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Screw the 85% audience rating. This is certified fresh. If that doesn't convince you to watch this movie, I don't know what will. If you like this video, you'll definitely love Bahubali and RRR. Thank you for 7,800 subscribers, and I'll see you in the next one.